Hello everyone, you're on the channel Scary Story. Tonight I have a tale that will make you double-check your locks and question every shadow you see. This story comes from a viewer named Alex, who lived alone in a small suburban house, the kind with a squeaky gate and a big oak tree in the front yard. For months everything was peaceful, almost boringly so. The nights were quiet, filled only with the distant hum of traffic and the chirping of crickets. But one Tuesday, that all changed. It started subtly. Alex came home from work and noticed the front door was unlocked. He was sure he'd locked it that morning. He'd developed a little routine. Lock the door, jiggle the handle twice. It was an unbreakable habit. He brushed it off, thinking maybe he was just tired and had forgotten. He went inside, made dinner, watched some TV, and went to bed. The next morning, the same thing. The door was unlocked. This time, a cold knot of anxiety tightened in his stomach. He knew with absolute certainty he had locked it and even put the chain on before going to sleep. He spent the day at work feeling uneasy, replaying the morning in his head. Did he dream it? Was he becoming that forgetful? He decided to test it. That night before bed, he not only locked the door and put on the chain, but he also wedged a chair under the doorknob just like in the movies. He felt a little silly, but the extra security helped him relax. He fell into a restless sleep, his dreams filled with shadows and whispers. When he woke up, the first thing he did was check the front door. His heart hammered against his ribs. The chair was moved, placed neatly back at the kitchen table. The chain was unlatched, and the door, a single click away from being wide open, was unlocked. Nothing was stolen. Nothing was out of place except for that moved chair. It was as if someone had come in, looked around, and left, making sure to tidy up after themselves. This wasn't a forgetful mistake. This was a message. Someone was letting him know they could get in whenever they wanted. Panic began to set in. Alex called the police, but they were dismissive. No signs of forced entry, nothing stolen. "Maybe you're sleepwalking, sir," one of them suggested. Alex knew he wasn't. He felt a profound sense of isolation. No one believed him. He was alone in this. That night, he barely slept. He sat in his living room, a baseball bat resting on his lap, watching the front door. Every creak of the house, every rustle of leaves outside, sent a jolt of adrenaline through him. The night passed without incident, but the exhaustion was taking its toll. He decided to change all the locks the next day. He hired a locksmith who installed heavy-duty deadbolts on every door. That night, for the first time in a week, Alex felt a sliver of hope. He triple-checked the new locks, went to bed, and actually fell into a deep sleep. He woke up feeling refreshed, the morning sun streaming through his window. He smiled, thinking the ordeal was finally over. He went downstairs to make coffee and froze. On the kitchen counter, neatly arranged in a small gleaming pile, were the old locks he had replaced. The screws, the plates, the cylinders, all of it. They were laid out like a trophy. A wave of pure terror washed over him. How? How did they get in? The new locks were untouched. The windows were all secure. There was no other way in. He ran through the house, checking every possible entry point, but found nothing. It was impossible. His home, his sanctuary, felt like a cage, and he wasn't the one holding the key. The visitor wasn't just getting in. They were toying with him, enjoying his fear. Alex started losing his grip on reality. He was barely eating, barely sleeping. He would spend his nights huddled in a corner, watching the shadows dance, his mind playing tricks on him. He started seeing things, a flicker of movement in his peripheral vision, a face in the reflection of a dark window. He couldn't be sure if it was real or if his sleep-deprived mind was creating the horror it so deeply feared. One evening he was sitting in his armchair, the TV on but muted, when he heard it. A soft tapping sound. It wasn't coming from the door or a window. It was coming from inside the house. Tap, tap, tap. It was faint, rhythmic. He held his breath, listening. The sound was coming from the hallway closet, the one where he stored old coats and boxes. Slowly, trembling, He stood up and grabbed the heavy fireplace poker. He crept towards the closet, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his chest. His hand reached for the doorknob slick with sweat. He hesitated. What if someone was in there? What if this was it? He took a deep breath, yanked the door open, and raised the poker, ready to swing. The closet was empty. Just old coats and a stack of dusty board games. He let out a shaky breath of relief, feeling foolish. But then, the tapping started again. Tap, tap, tap. It was louder now, clearer. It was coming from above him, from the attic. Alex had only been in the attic once, right after he moved in. It was a dark, dusty space accessible only by a pull-down ladder in the hallway ceiling. He stared up at the square outline of the attic door. The tapping stopped. A deafening silence filled the house. He stood there for what felt like an eternity, his neck craned, just staring. Then he heard a new sound, a slow, scraping noise. It was the sound of something heavy being dragged across the wooden floorboards of the attic, right above his head. He didn't wait to find out what it was. He bolted. He ran out of the house, not even bothering to grab his keys or his wallet. He just ran, barefoot, down the dark street, not looking back. He didn't stop until the streetlights of his neighborhood were a distant glow. He never went back to that house. He abandoned everything he owned, his clothes, his furniture, his memories. He moved to a new city, into a high-rise apartment on the 20th floor, as far from the ground and from attics as he could get. Sometimes, late at night, when the city is quiet, he thinks he can still hear it. A faint tapping sound carried on the wind. He knows it's just his imagination, a scar left by the terror he endured. But a small part of him always wonders, was it a person, a squatter, or was it something else entirely? Something that had been living in the quiet, dark spaces of that house long before he moved in, just waiting for a new person to play with. Alex's story is a chilling reminder that the most terrifying things are often the ones we can't explain. The fear of the unknown, the feeling of being watched, the violation of our safest space. It preys on our minds until we can no longer tell the difference between what's real and what's in our head. Thank you for listening to tonight's scary story. If you've ever had an experience like Alex's, a visitor you couldn't explain, share it in the comments below. Stay safe, lock your doors, and maybe check your attic. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Scary Story for more tales that will haunt your nights. Until next time, sleep well, if you can.